getting their papers regulated and remain in the country. How do you see these things?
You know, I think that that discussion, you know, is one of the main discussions that are needed, you know, in the country. You know, because without any doubt, the immigration situation, the immigration problem, is at the core of all problems of Denmark, right? And it is time that we become very, very realistic, you know, as a people, as St. Martin people, as government, as well as immigrants, you know, because, you know, when you look at St. Martin, it's very clear that St. Martin has turned all logics, you know, upside down. It started when basically we ignored and we never made it very clear to immigrants, to visitors, you know, to ourselves, you know, that we're not the same. We're not the same in terms of, you know, when it comes to, you know, the relationship with the country. You know, every country has a host population and a guest population. That's where St. Martin went totally wrong, you know, because what has happened, people get confused. A lot of people coming from abroad, they feel that, you know, they are hosts.
Yeah.
You know, they don't realize and they don't know their place. When I go to somebody else's country as a guest, I don't feel humiliated to know that I'm a guest, because that is what I am. So St. Martin has created, because you know, things were going so well at St. Martin, there was so much to be done and to be had on St. Martin, so many jobs and so much money to be made, that people forgot those values and those concepts, you know. So at a given moment, people even forget or forgot that, listen, when you go to a country as an immigrant, basically the main reason you go to that country is that you're looking for work. And when there is no more work, you go back home. So now, let me make this point, because it's very important. St. Martin now is a sick society, because here are we now having a total crisis in the country in every possible way, right? Whereby the own people don't even have enough for themselves, and we're not even talking about the young St. Martins abroad. And we as government and as people are trying to find ways and means for people who lost their jobs for whatever reason, that they have to stay here. Why? Why? What is so wrong with going back home? And even if people said we built our home here, so what? We built our homes in Aruba, Eldridge.
Yes.
We sold your home. You build a home, you sell it.
You go home.
You go home.
But do you see a need between both sides of the island to carry the same immigration policy in terms?
But didn't I tell you already when I talk about Somalia, I talk about one country and basically one order, one. Listen, the way we see Somalia developing is based on the you know, the new Somalian order, meaning that everything has to be seen from that context as one, because it's like flying a plane, and here we have a pilot. You know, I don't know if you fly a plane that has one wing. I don't know how far you get. You know, so I mean, you cannot develop St. Martin in particular, you know, without taking the entire island into. It's impossible. Even the constitution developed is crazy, and that's why we St. Martins have a crucial role to play, because we are the only constant in the whole island. You know, so basically we have a tremendous role to play in the sense of bringing the country together and setting the tone and giving a direction to politicians. Politicians don't know what's going on. None. Politicians are lost case right now. We as a movement have to tell politicians, this is what you're going to do now. This is where you're going. How you get here? Okay, you can, you know, develop your own policies on that. But this is where you're going. And where you're going is towards one St. Martin.
Mr. J.
One St. Martin, and recognizing St. Martin people, you know, as the host of this country and having the first rights in this country.
Are you suggesting that any politician who don't understand St. Martin people should be first or being the host or have first right to opportunity in St. Martin disqualifies themselves to lead the country?
Is a traitor.
Coming back
You understand what I'm saying?
a
It's
question,
a traitor.
pertaining similar to that manner there. This is what I call a hypothetical scenario. let's for instance say we have a Jamaican person, come from Jamaican heritage, but he born here, and he gets to be Prime Minister of St. Martin, and he lobby to remove the rights, he said the policy from Jamaicans, Haitian, and Dominicans of requiring them to have a visa to come to St. Martin. Do you see how that could affect St. Martin, even in the long run, when you have people of different heritage come in your country, if they get a majority, how they can reverse the even very existence of the native St. Martin people?
Not reverse. You're not going to have any existence. You know, I mean, let's be very, very, very real. You know, and again, I'm not blaming any immigrants per se, but at the same time, I'm telling them, yes, you know what you're doing. You know what you're doing, so you have to pay the price. You understand? Because you know that what you expect from us, you know, towards immigrants on St. Martin, you don't do it in your country. You know it. You see? So it's not that they don't know it. They know it. You know? So I think we need a very serious discussion here on St. Martin. And the point that you brought up, Eldridge, with immigration, you know, I mentioned that we've got to become very realistic, you know, which I mean, you know. I don't have to explain to any immigrant when his time is up, go back home. Because whether you come, you can go. I mean, give me a break. This is the time to come, it's time to uncome. Right. You understand? Give me a break. Go back home. I came back home. Well, you don't love your home? You see, but we can put it in a much bigger context. We don't have to put it in a context necessarily, you know, of creating, let's say, confrontation. I think we have, and this type of discussion is very important because we have formulated a concept, you know, a win-win concept that benefits everybody. I think it's very important, and that's the role that we as a host have to take. We have to take the role to come up with suggestions, proposals, and ask them to come around the table and say, listen, this is what we, you know, we propose. You know, what you think about it. You know, for instance, we have come up with a concept that we call the Marshall Plan, right? The Marshall Plan is a brilliant idea. I would like to believe, because what a Marshall Plan does basically, it creates a win-win situation. It creates a win-win situation, and it has a lot of creative intelligence behind it. Because one of the things we have done in that plan is basically it doesn't matter whether you have so many immigrants in the country or not, because we have created a mechanism that makes it completely irrelevant. Right. You know, whether you have more immigrants than your own people. How you do that? Look, you do that by making sure that immigrants do not have the same rights that the natives have.
Right.
You see, what we have done in that Marshall Plan is we have distinguished four main stakeholders group: the native population, right, the naturalized people, right, and the immigrants, the investors, the foreign investors, and government. Those are the main four, let's say, stakeholders in the country. We have said, okay, let's look at those groups. What are their main concerns? Put it in a scale. Put their main concerns in a scale and try to address their main concerns in a structural way, and to achieve those solutions to their concerns in a way that you maintain a dynamic balance. But we have a number of conditions, premises that are non-negotiable. One is the native population. They're the host and they come first under all circumstances, period. Right? Yeah. We've been discussing that one. Right?
Granted.
Two, the native population should have certain rights that others don't have.
Granted.
Meaning, for instance, give an example, because give me a break. As a native population, give me a break. If you want to build a St. Martin, you can't put a Chinese pilot in the plane that want to reach St. Martin. Give me a break.
Oh, man. Without fairness,
you understand what I'm saying? So you got to make sure that the key positions, the positions that could achieve whatever, they are in the hands of the native people.
Then sync with
you understand?
Core values.
Sure. So you define, which positions are positions of let's say national interest,
yes.
Strategic national interest, whether it's a prime ministership, whether it's
unions, editors,
whatever.
News people.
You say those positions should be, and we can negotiate which positions should be positions of national interest.
Yes.
But those positions should be reserved for the people of heritage.
Yes.
Period.
Right.
You see, because you got to guarantee that the country is going to remain, you know,
In the hands of your natives.
forever.
Yes.
At the same time, another premise would be that immigrants, you know, that we need immigrants. Every country that's developed needs immigrants. Immigrants ain't bad people.
Yes.
Immigrants are necessary. They are really, really necessary, especially those that have added value.
Yeah.
They are necessary. You see? So we recognize that, you know, St. Martin in this case, we need immigrants, right? And we have to treat them good. We have to treat them very, very good. If you need them, you got to treat them good. You can't abuse their basic human rights.
No.
I ain't talking about trumped up human rights.
No.
I ain't talking about human rights that they create when they come in. No. We're talking about basic, normal human rights. You know,
anybody should have
to
any
be
country
guaranteed.
expect to have in their country
Yes,
as well.
got to be guaranteed. Got to be guaranteed. So those are few premises. You know, apart from that, we say, listen, if you look at the immigrants right now, what the immigrants have over us, and that's part of the instability of the country. Their numbers. Their numbers is a threat to us, and they are using it as a threat to us. They use it as a threat. So we are saying that threat you have to neutralize. You have to offset it. How you offset it? Very simple. You say, listen, you have hundreds of thousands of immigrants here. It doesn't matter. But you know what? Certain positions you can get, and the more immigrants you have here, the more taxes you pay per head, for instance, and the less we pay per head. So at a given moment, we got to become so creative that it doesn't matter how many immigrants we have here. As a matter of fact, the more immigrants, the better we live. You understand? So that is going to become up to the immigrants, their associations, you know, because that's what we are proposing to, that every immigrant should be part of the association, so you deal with the association in terms of certain rules and whatever. You understand? So you can say to the Haitian association, for instance, listen, whatever any Haitian does here, you're responsible, you pay for whatever. Number one.
On the walk out the details, I would think has become very interesting, but I find it very intriguing that the card in particular, does apart most identification cards have some kind of social or political benefits in addition to just being identified as indigenous or as native. What are the benefits?
So important. So important. Let me go back to the card for a moment too, right? What I want to say now.
With respect to the value of the card itself.
Yeah.
What kind of
there's something I want to say about the card. It's slipping my mind out. Slipping my mind.
Yeah, a question for you. In the meantime, while you figure that out.
Yeah.
In the way how you see nation building of St. Martin, how would you would like it to be? Like what you are proposing now, comparing to what is now. What we have now in St. Martin, would you call it chaos?
I have no other words for it. You know, not only chaos, but it's you see, the situation on St. Martin is it started out in a way being very disadvantageous to us St. Martin people because we're not recognized. You feel yourself becoming a minority, and so on and so on and so on, and that's a devastating mental, psychological impact on people. Period. That's number one. But as time goes by, people realize too that it also backfires on other people as well, on certain immigrants as well, because we have the experience, for instance, of certain immigrants that, you know, when we talk about immigrants, too often people think negative. We have a lot of immigrants who really care for St. Martin, maybe care more for St. Martin than St. Martin themselves, you know, and who are a tremendous added value to St. Martin, you know. But they are very concerned of the situation because of we not assuming our role to put things in order. You see, when you're a host, you know, you have the responsibility to take care of yourself, yes, but also to make sure that others, you know their place, you know, and you know, can fit in and can feel, you know, that there is a future for them. You know, that's a role that we have to play. You see. And right now, a lot of people who are not of St. Martin heritage, you know, they are feeling very, very, very confused as well because they realize, you know, that this is going to cause all kinds of problems. You know, I remember I met a gentleman one time from Barbados, and this gentleman lives on St. Martin for quite a while. I'm not going to call his name, of course. And he told me, he said, Mr. James, the guy was crying to me actually, and he said he was afraid that we would have ethnic cleansing on the island one of these days. So I said, what do you mean? He said, well, you know, what happened on St. Martin ain't normal. He said, it is not normal. He said, it is not normal for our people to accept, you know, becoming a minority, becoming marginalized in their country to the extent that it's happening in St. Martin. He says, and it's true, I'm a biologist, I know those things happen. When you corner a cat, it will come at your throat. So he is afraid that at a certain moment, because the problem with St. Martin people is St. Martin people, you know, Eldridge, and you too, Miguel, they, for whatever reasons, they do not share their real feelings to people. So, you know, a lot of people feel that, okay, Leopold, Eldridge, and Miguel, they're troublemakers, and the rest of St. Martin, everybody happy. That's what you think. You see? So what happened, he says he is afraid that at a given moment, they are going to explode. They're going to explode, and they're going to be very irrational in their reaction.
Are you encouraging both governments to structurally offer special privileges or particular rights to people who have this Martin card?
That's exactly what I was thinking about just now.
Special rights in that was
business opportunities, their pension, or
that was the point I wanted to make just now. Basically, it has to do with that. The point I'm trying to make just now is, I'm very proud and I'm very happy to see now that there is a discussion. Nobody can get away from that period of who's a Samaritan. That discussion is there. The important is there is a discussion that St. Martin has got to have certain rights above others. Period. But the problem has been, who's a Samaritan? How you identify the Samaritan? And I always said, you cannot anymore say, well, you know, I love Samaritan, I'm a Samaritan. The computer don't recognize that. The computer recognizes a smart card, swipe it, bam. That's why the cards are important. And that's why the card now takes away excuse from governments and gives them an opportunity at the same time
to embrace it and
to embrace it and work and tweak it if necessary and say, at least we know now who is the Samaritan. Because if we want to start by saying you have Samaritans and you have others, which you have to do, and you say Samaritans, you know, being people of heritage, belonging to this country, they deserve certain rights, whatever those rights are. Right. You got to be able to identify them.
That's like in Curacao.
And that's the key of the card.
That's what I did in Curacao with respect to the labor policy.
The 80-20. But we went further than Curacao because we have the ID card. Yes. We have the card.
Yes.
You see, and we are in the process, you know, we're in the process of adjusting the card, because what we are doing, and I love what we're doing so much, because being a grassroots movement, you know, we decide for ourselves what we're doing. We don't have to go through government, we don't have to ask government, whatever. And when you look at it, it's so interesting, because what has happened, for years we have been crying out as St. Martin people, telling government, you know, St. Martin people are hurting, St. Martin people need your attention, etc., etc. They never paid any attention whatsoever. Yeah. So over the years now, because when you looked at the government on the Dutch side, the government on the French side, they took care of people living. Take the Dutch government, for instance, they took care of Dutch residents on the Dutch side, and the French government over here took care of people living on the French side. They they didn't know what Samaritans were. So here I had this big group of Samaritans in between, left unattended. You understand? Here's where we came in, and we said, okay. That's why I answered your question just now. Since nobody wants to recognize them, let alone represent them, that's exactly what we have done. So as a grassroots movement, we operate across the whole island. That's what we call a grassroots movement. In order to be to function officially, we are officially registered on both sides. So we are the only organization that represents Samaritan all across the island. You understand? So it's so important now at a given moment that we know who's the Samaritan. You know, because we have the card, we have the ID card, and we are willing, you know, because that is what you're kind of hint in that direction, because we know sooner or later they can't get around using the card, because it should be possible for St. Martiners, you know, St. Martiners to benefit from. St. Martiners have lived their whole lives a certain way of life which is based on the Treaty of Concordia, meaning for us St. Martin is one. That's when people talk about where you come from, Dutch side, French side, they ask a Samaritan, the Samaritan don't understand what you're talking about. because St. Martin is ours. We got property all over. We live all over. We got family all over. You understand? So we are the embodiment of the Treaty of Concordia. But now we have to take it to the next level and make use of that Treaty of Concordia, make it applicable to today's reality for St. Martin people.
So in my final
So who has those cars now should be able to benefit from whatever the
on both sides of the island.
Everywhere. Period. You understand what I'm saying? Right. That is the importance of the car.
My final question to you is this. So when I listen to you, well, you are saying that even though St. Martin was both Dutch and French, and that have been acknowledged, the main players of the entity St. Martin as St. Martin people have been really left out.
Exactly.
So in reality, the Dutch and French comes together, but they left out the real native people of St. Martin. So in fact, displaying Dutch and French means excluding St. Martin.
Let me put it this Dutch-French thing is artificial nonsense.
Okay.
Yeah? Because it's just, it's not on the ground, it's up in the air.
So
Cloud 19.
So it is not being reached St. Martin people.
The grassroots people, we are the real reality of St. Martin. You understand? And we have such, you see, while many of us have always, felt left out, using your creative intelligence, you realize we are the most powerful factor, period.